And welcome to the Jeff Capel Show here at the Peterson Events Center. And we are again joined by a former Panther great, now an assistant head coach and doing a great job at Dayton. Ricardo Greer is going to join us. Dana O'Neill spent some time with you and wrote about the Panther program. We're going to talk to her about what her findings were, what she thought, all of that stuff. And I know, Jeff, you're battling a little cold right now.
I'm trying
right
not
on
to cough.
cue.
Right on cue. Battling, fighting through it, and need to get a little bit of rest. That would help too.
It kind of sounds like similar things you'd probably say about your group right now.
Yeah.
Fighting it, battling through. And
We're fighting, battling through. You know, I thought we did some good things in our last game. We were finally able to get off to a good start on the road. That's something that we've been desperately trying to work on. And I thought we changed up our routine a little bit. And I thought we did some good things, you know, with about 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left in the first half. We're up one. And then we don't do a good job of closing out the half. And so we go from up one to halftime. I think we're down 8. And, you know, we have to be able to finish. We have to be able to push through. We have to be able to fight through. And then in the second half, we kept it around 10, 8 to 10. And then they hit us with another punch, and we couldn't survive that.
it's amazing in the game, and I don't know if it's more so now than it was, but it seems like one little exhale, and that can take you right. I mean, teams can just spurt like crazy.
Especially when you're playing against a really good team. I think Florida State is one of the better teams in the country, and I think they're a team that's capable of getting to a Final Four and winning the whole thing. And when you're playing against a team with that type of depth, and for us this time of year, look, everyone this time of year is tired. Everyone's a little bit banged up. Everyone's sore. You're going through all these different things. The key is who can push through, who can be a little bit more disciplined, who can fight through fatigue, who can do these things where you don't allow fatigue, being undisciplined, all those things to beat you. And that's where we have to continue to grow as a program.
Where's confidence at with this group?
It's a little bit shaky right now. We've lost 3 games in a row, 2 on the road. We haven't particularly played great, especially on the offensive end. Our inability to make shots, I think at times, hurts our defense because we get so down and then that affects everything. And so it's kind of like, this perfect storm. And at times we've gotten good shots. The ball just hasn't gone into the basket. And when you're young, you don't think of how to push through. And then we don't have anyone that has the experience to talk, besides us as a coaching staff, about how you push through, staying disciplined, being a little bit stronger, help, encourage a little bit. Those are all the things that we're trying to continue to grow as a program here.
And we're going to get an outside perspective coming up. Dana O'Neill, one of the most respected writers out there, spent some time with you talking about the program. We're going to get Dana's take as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. And welcome back to the Jeff Capel Show. We're here at the Peterson Events Center in this beautiful studios, and right outside on the other side of the glass are a number of women who work in the athletic department, plus a group called WISE, Women in Sports Leadership. Your wife is out there.
Talking.
But it's really cool. And, I would add this person to that list of prominent women in sports. Dana O'Neill from The Athletic joins us. And Dana, welcome to the Jeff Capel Show.
Hey, thank you for having me. How are you guys?
Good. You wrote recently, very recently, about Pitt. And I want to ask you generally, what are your overall impressions of the program?
Well, as I told Coach Capel when I came up there, I said, from a 10,000 feet view, which I know is easier to have when you're not kind of in it, I feel like it looks like it's coming. You can see progress on the court. You can see progress in the results. It's not maybe the leaps and bounds everyone wants to make and have overnight success, but that's not really how things happen generally in sports, at least if you want them to stick. So I think there's a history there. There's something to build on. I think it's just going to take a little time, and I think it's heading in the right direction.
How big of a project, this is strange because Jeff's sitting right next to me, but how big of a project was this that Jeff encountered in trying to rebuild what is here?
Well, I think it's a lot, and there's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, obviously the winless season in the ACC is just a killer, and the sort of embarrassment that people felt. But beyond that, if you go backwards, I mean, Pitt's been through a lot, losing athletic directors, changing leagues, changing brands. I don't think people understand what moving out of the Big East kind of did toward the, I say the reputation, but sort of the branding that it had. There was a name correlation with the league, and it had to reestablish itself in the ACC, and that hurt, I think, quite a bit in terms of people just feeling what they used to feel, and then they had to find their way, and then they can't win, and it's a lot. I mean, I feel like there was a lot that had to be done, and like I said, I think the good news was there was a base. Sometimes you're trying to build something from nothing. There was something there to build on. That helps considerably, but there was a lot that had to be soothed over, if you will.
We're joined by the Athletics' Dana O'Neill here on the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers radio network. And when you're trying to build something back up, and then you add in the fact that you're in the ACC, how much more difficult does it make the challenge?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody, about this just today. In fact, that's the difference. When you're trying to build something in the ACC, it's not like you can say, oh, well, we're going to jump from 14th to 3rd. There's just so many teams to climb over. It's a deep league because there's just a lot of teams in it. The teams at the top, you're always going to have to fight your heads against Duke, Carolina, Virginia, Louisville. I mean, you can presume that some of those are going to be there forever. So you're just trying to get in the mix, and in the mix might look like 10 for a while, which doesn't read well on the standings, but 10's in the mix, 9's in the mix. So it's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot to overcome, I think, in a league that has a reputation for a lot of schools of being a very good league and a lot of really good programs.
Speaking of that, Dana, first of all, appreciate you being on. I was talking to Mike Young, the coach, the new coach at Virginia Tech, the other day before we played him, and that's what he said. I just asked, how are you doing? They were coming off of a week off, and he just said, it's brutal, it's nonstop, it's relentless. He was saying, he came from Wofford. He was like, I'm looking and I'm hoping I see, Radford and VMI,
right.
And you don't see that.
Right.
So it's relentless, and just trying to build it back up. It's a difficult task. Now I know you're working on a book about the Big East, and one of the things that's been pretty obvious to me since I got here, I knew it from afar as a fan of basketball from afar, but certainly when I got here, it's just a pride that people here at Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, and in this area had about the Big East. When Pitt had this thing going, can you talk just a little bit about, the success that they had in the Big East, especially, to me it was during the 80s, and there was a little bit of dip there in the 90s, and then when Ben Howland got here, then obviously with Jamie. So can you talk just a little bit about, in the history of the Big East, Pitt's kind of foothold in it?
Well, absolutely, and you're right. I mean, it did take a little bit of a dip, but then it came back, and it came back in gangbusters to the point, from Ben Howland and Jamie Dixon. They're regulars deep in New York in the Big East tournament, and it was their identity in a lot of ways because they were recruiting guys out of, especially Jamie, recruiting guys out of New York who had that sort of blue collar, nasty. I mean, you kind of just. You could close your eye, or you could take a uniform off a player or put generic uniforms on and say, that's a Pitt basketball player.
Yeah.
That's how they play. That's who they are, right? And that was part of an extension of the reputation of the Big East. And I think, that's what people kind of identified with, all these long-term rivalries that made sense to them or were at least familiar to them. And their style of play and their personality suited that league so well. And they were wildly successful in it when it was super deep. I mean, when we're talking, there were 16 teams, and you got Rick Pitino on one corner and Jim Calhoun in the other, and Jim Boeheim in the other. And here's Pitt, nobody's expecting them, and there they are in New York making deep runs. So yeah, it was as much of as an identity and a personality as it was a league for them. And I think that's what I mean when I say it took a while to kind of reestablish that. I mean, that it's I'm not saying the ACC can't play the same way, but it's a different personality from league to league, as you know.
One of the things that I mentioned to Dana when she was here and we were visiting, it was amazing to me when I first took this job in the first few months I was here as we were recruiting, a lot of the kids, it was actually more than not, but a lot of kids didn't know Pitt was in the ACC. And one of the things that we did, trying to kind of, fight against that, if you look up in our office downstairs, we put the ACC everywhere. We tried to put it in different spots so when they come, they know that I think there's something, just like the Big East. I've always felt historically the ACC and the Big East are the two best conferences. And so Pitt certainly had a stronghold in the Big East. And now, like Dana said, we're trying to establish ourselves in the ACC. And the very first thing is getting people to know that we're in the ACC. And then if we can start, when we start having success in the ACC, then I think all those things go hand in hand of helping us, to reestablish ourselves.
Dana,
yeah, I agree. I was going to say that the simplest way to solve all of this is to win, right? You start winning in the ACC, everybody knows
Absolutely.
where you are.
Yep.
Well, Dana, hang with us. I want to ask you a little bit about this season with the ACC and just overall what a crazy season it's been, and we're only halfway through February. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks as we continue. Dana O'Neill from The Athletic joins us here on the Jeff Capel Show on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network.
McGowan pulls up and he hits it. X-Man jam.
McGowan's against the bigger trail with a lob to Champagny.
To Ryan Murphy for the three. Yes. Wow. And the place is on fire.
They helped me a lot to just, mold me who I am.
Pitt just has it all.
Everyone is on their feet.
Hail to Pitt.
Yeah,
we just witnessed history.
Pitt Beyond the Script, weekly on AT&T Sportsnet.
And welcome back to the Jeff Capel Show. And for those of you that are watching on television, Elijah is running camera now, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he's back there running the camera.
Yeah, he's taking control right back there. And for those who don't know, that's your son. And we're joined by Dana O'Neill from The Athletic. And Dana, we've asked this question for numerous guests, but I just want to get your thoughts on what a wild ACC it's been this year. 3 teams tied with 3 losses. And really, there's a lot of years where you think that there's going to be a floor or a basement, but really, I mean, it's so competitive this year. What are your thoughts on the league?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think people, were saying early that it didn't look as good. There's been a lot of turnover and things like that, but we're starting to see sort of, I think, an evening out, if you will, of things. And I think the teams at the top are going to be exceptionally difficult to beat in the next month. I mean, and you start looking at the standings. I mean, I'm looking at Virginia winning 3 games in a row. Ain't nobody wants to see them getting good right now and figuring things out. So, NC State goes out and blows the doors off the Duke.
That's who we play next.
I know. Sorry. And NC State blows the doors off the Duke. Nobody saw that coming. So I think, this time of year you see these desperate teams doing crazy things to try to make their way in the tournament. I think it's no different in the ACC. So I do think that, like I said, that the teams that are really established in the league are going to make noise, and there are a couple in the middle that are going to make things very uncomfortable here going forward.
Dana, what are your thoughts, on just college basketball in general right now, like the state of college basketball? Obviously, this season has been very different. I don't think there's a great team. I think there's some really good teams, and you are as respected as anyone, in in college basketball as a writer, and your thoughts. You've been around it. Like, just what are your thoughts on the state of college basketball right now?
Right. I mean, I agree with you. Obviously, there is no dominant team. There are less dominant players. So that's kind of where we are with a lot of kind of upheaval. I think I guess it depends on what you like. That's going to make for a pretty chaotic March. Are people going to love that? I'm not sure. I think the reasons are multiple. I think turnover on rosters is at the time. One-and-done players and things like that. Guys leading. Some of the best freshmen in this class aren't playing in college ball. R.J. Hampton and LaMelo Ball were in Australia and New Zealand. James Wiseman, got up and left. So that's hurting the product certainly a lot as well. Do I think like some people are like, oh my God, the sport's in trouble, it's going to fold? No, I mean, people still love it and they still go and they still get exciting. Can the product be improved? Yeah, but unfortunately, I always say the things that need to be fixed in college basketball can't fix them. They need the NBA to fix the one and done rule. It's things that are out of their control. So I think it's going to be like this until we kind of figure out what the rules are going to look like.
It's interesting because a lot of people don't know that. They always think it's college basketball, and it's
I know,
not. It's
they blame us.
They blame us, and it's not that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that's the problem. I mean, it's sort of things are being done to the sport, and so you're left with making the best of it. And I still think it's entertaining, and people generally go to watch sports because it's entertaining. At the end of the day, can it be improved? Absolutely, but I don't think it's dying by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, to me, I think we're in a very interesting place in college basketball because of, like Dana mentioned, the roster changes and the one and done. I do think you're going to see going forward, I think you're going to see more people, more kids explore the overseas option. In a couple of years, the NBA collective bargaining, that thing will happen again, and I think you'll see then. I think the NBA could possibly change their rule. I think they're strongly leaning towards that to allow high school players to go straight to the NBA. And so I think that's going to be a big change. But one of the biggest changes, I think, and you tell me your thoughts on this, if this one-time transfer rule passes, what do you think the impact is on college basketball with that?
Well, so I understand the concern and the fear, especially among mid-major coaches. I firmly respect it because they're right. I mean, are we going to see guys go and just bolt when the grass looks greener over here? Absolutely. But I think it's going to be like that for a couple of years, and then you're going to find that it's going to come back to the mean. I mean, just because, big-time school X, lose you from smaller school Y doesn't necessarily mean it works out. And if it doesn't work out for everybody, I think that will make things calm down. I also get aggravated, and this is just a personal thing, people like running for cover as if there's nothing they can do to stop it. Well, yes, you can. You can be an honorable coach.
Yeah.
Not try to go undercut your peer and recruit from and tamper. You could follow the rules. I know it's a crazy concept, but coaches are in control of their own destiny if they want to do that, and they kind of act like, well, we don't know how to fix it. Well, I do. Do the right thing.
Yeah.
But I understand if I'm sitting at an A10 school right now, or I'm sitting in even different a Southern Conference school, and I got a great player. I get why you're nervous. I understand it, but at the same time, it's a difficult sell to me to be able to say to every other kid in college athletics, you can transfer without penalty, but basketball, men's and women's, you can't. That doesn't seem reasonable.
Well, Dana, thank you very much. And if you want to check out, for Panther fans, check out her article at The Athletic if you haven't subscribed yet. The Athletic now is like when I was a kid with Sports Illustrated. It's the go-to.
It really is.
And I'm not just saying that because you're on the line, Dana. I mean,
we have the best writers, the best people
absolutely.
to cover, especially our sport.
And you guys are journalists,
yes,
which I really respect. And Dana, thank you for your time, and we'll check it out at theathletic.com.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your help.
Ricardo Greer, what a career he had here at Pitt, and he kind of got the ball rolling for transitioning this program. We're going to talk with him as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network.
they helped me a lot to just, mold me who I am.
Pitt just has it all.
Everyone is on their feet.
Hail to Pitt.
Yeah,
We just witnessed history.
Pitt Beyond the Script, weekly on AT&T Sportsnet.
A lot of time on Greer.
Comes to Seabrooks to Greer. He beats the clock and hits the three. How about that?
He's drained 2 straight, and already it looks like Boeheim wants to use one.
He scored 1,752 points. He was a captain here at Pitt. He helped lead Pitt into the era of NCAA tournaments, and now he's doing a really good job with the Dayton Flyers as an assistant coach. And Ricardo Greer is joining us, New York City kid. And Ricardo, hey, first, thanks for your time and congrats on the start on the season so far with the Flyers.
I really appreciate that. We got amazing kids down here that, are playing their tails off and doing a great job. So, we're excited for them and we're excited for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Ricardo, what's up, man? Appreciate you coming on.
Oh, no doubt, Coach, man. When Ronald Ramon hit me with this morning, I was excited, So, I just wanted to say thank you guys for having me on. And you guys are doing a hell of a job up there, man. Keep it up. I'm really proud. I'm always watching the Panthers.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, earlier, Jeff, when we were talking to Dana O'Neal was just on, and I said, one more thing, but we had to go to break and we had to end. This is what I wanted to say. Like, earlier in the year, when I was looking at just watching college basketball, my thought was, I said this, like, there are not any great teams. They're really good teams. And I said to my staff, like, I think this is the year that a mid-major team can win the whole thing. And then I thought, it just so happens that Ricardo's going to be on the show. I think they actually have a great player. I don't think there are many great players. I think they have the best player in the country. And then they have a really, really good team around him. And so, Ricardo, my first question to you is that when did you guys know that Obi Toppin, like when you recruit, like, did you know that he would become this?
I don't think no one knew that he can become this. I think that, when Obi came on campus and he had the red shirt that first year, he gained around 20 to 30 pounds, and he put in a lot of extra work after practices. Practices were his games, so he took that really serious as far as normally, a kid that's sitting out might not go as hard in practice because, they're not going into the games, but he took every practice as if it was his game, and he just worked his butt off that redshirt year to when it was time for him to step up and play. He was focused and he was ready. So, he worked a lot that off year when he came here.
Yeah. It's we scrimmaged Dayton last year, my first year, and I think he played a little bit in that game. Maybe he was coming off of injury. I can't remember, but I remember, we didn't have any film on him. And so we YouTubed, and there was some stuff from him up in New York. And I remember my brother was doing the scouting. He was like, do you want to show this? I'm like, nah, our guys are going to be scared to death if we show this stuff with him. And he had this amazing dunk over one of our big guys in the game. And just to see his progression, man, and I read an amazing story actually in The Athletic on him. And so I'm really happy for you. Anthony is one of my favorite people. Anthony Grant, who's the head coach at Dayton. He and I go back to days at VCU. And I'm happy for Anthony. I'm happy for you and your whole staff, and wish you guys luck as you go forward. My next question to you. So you were the only guy in your 7-man class that signed with Pitt that stayed when Coach Willard, left or, however that ended. What was it about Pitt that made you want to stay?
Well, growing up in New York, I lost my mom at a young age. And, when my sister had to take the role of my mom, she always had that not quit mentality where regardless of what you're doing, you always finish what you start. And when I committed to Pitt, that was my commitment to Pitt. It wasn't, if things ain't going right, I can leave, And when I got to Pitt, just the community, the people around the Pittsburgh and all. It was just a great feeling. And, 20 years later, I still feel that love for Pittsburgh, the city, the university, and everyone, around. So for me, it was a no-brainer to stay and finish what I started, and to this day, I'm just happy that I did that. I took my family there a couple of years back, and, I was just proud to show them the Cathedral of Learning, the old field house where I played at. And, it was a privilege, and I was really happy to do that. So that was just me. I just thought I had to finish what I started.
So when you made the decision to come here, like, it wasn't like you helped establish, especially when Coach Howland got here and, by the time you finished, you helped establish, like, the incredible run that this program had of postseason. When you made the decision to come here, they didn't have that. So what was the reason you chose Pitt? Like, what was it about Pitt that you decided this is where you wanted to be?
Well, it's interesting because you had a bunch of New York guys that had gone to Pitt prior, like, Orlando Antigua, who's Dominican descent, like myself, Jaime Peterson, who's also Dominican descent, Jerry McCullough. So, you had a lot of guys that were from New York already that were there. So, knowing that, when I got up there, and Jared Lockhart, another New York guy, was my host, I just felt it was the right fit, and then when Coach Howland took over, I remember his first message to us. He said, listen, we're going to work hard. We're going to play hard defense. And if you're not committed to that, then you can go. He wasn't, and for me, it was like, okay, this is another challenge. And, I took it straight on. And he put all that pressure on myself to be a leader, and that helped me throughout my pro career. So, I got a lot of love for Coach H, and, he helped me become, the player and the coach that I am also. So, that was one of the biggest reasons.
Yeah.
And Jeff, unfortunately, we're out of time. I know Ricardo had practice, but, hey, Ricardo, I want to ask you this. We want to do this again. Is that cool?
Oh, anytime, man. Anytime.
Right. And we got to get you to sign the brick, man. We got to get you to sign the brick when you guys come in town.
We got some things we got to ask Ricardo.
I
Ricardo Greer, Panther great. Thank you for your time with us. Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. Welcome back with head coach Jeff Capel. Virginia here, 12 o'clock on Saturday. It seems like they're starting to play some good basketball.
They are. They lost a lot. Obviously, they won the national championship, and they were really affected by early departures. And it's taken them a while to kind of find their groove, but over the past few weeks, they really have. They still have that championship DNA. They have three starters back, from last year's team. 2 starters and the 6th man, right, who in the championship game basically played starter minutes, and a couple of other guys. The thing they're doing, they're always playing defense. They're one of the best in the country, if not the best. The thing they've started doing over the past couple of weeks is they're starting to shoot the ball better. If you look at their numbers in conference, their numbers don't look good as far as from the three-point line, but over the last 7 games, they're 41%. And over the last 2 games, they've made 19 threes. And when they start getting the offense going, that's what made them so good last year. They were so dynamic offensively. So it'd be a tough challenge for us.
All right. Panther Nation needs you here, 12 o'clock on Saturday, 11:30 is pregame with Bill Hillgrove and Curtis Aiken. For our guests, Ricardo Greer and Dana O'Neill, from Matt Pliska, Amanda Siley, good night. The Pitt Panthers Radio Network.
He was fit.